The wind howled like a living thing, screaming through the thick wall of trees that surrounded the cabin, shaking the shutters as though demanding to be let inside. Maya stood by the window, arms crossed, watching the snow fall in violent sheets, blanketing the landscape in white silence. It was the kind of storm that made the world disappear, just the way she liked it. No noise, no people, no expectations. Just the crackling fire, the scent of pine and old books, and the deafening quiet of her solitude. She had built this life deliberately, no one within miles, no roads that weren't buried under snow half the year, no phone reception, no damn internet. It had taken her years to erase herself from the noise of the world, years to peel off the layers of wounds and betrayals that made her flinch at the thought of letting anyone close. She didn't need anyone. She didn't want anyone. And then came the knock. It was sharp, urgent, out of place. Maya froze. It couldn't be. No one came here. No one even knew how to get here unless she showed them. She approached the door slowly, every instinct bristling. Another knock, louder this time. She hesitated, hand hovering above the doorknob, then pulled it open. And there she was, a woman standing in the storm, soaked in snow and shadows, her long black coat clinging to her like a second skin. Her face was pale, ethereal, as if carved from marble and dusted in frost. Raven black hair fell in damp waves around her shoulders, and her eyes, deep, endless, and strangely luminous, met Maya's with a strange intensity. "I'm sorry to bother you," she said, voice low and velvety, slightly trembling. "My car broke down a few miles back. I've been walking. Can I come in?" Maya didn't answer right away. Her gut twisted. Everything about this woman was off. Not dangerous exactly, but not ordinary either. But the wind shrieked again behind her, and Maya stepped aside. "Yeah," she said. "Come in." The woman crossed the threshold like she was stepping through a portal, and the moment the door closed behind her, the air seemed to shift. Maya caught the faintest scent of something she couldn't place, like old roses, iron, and cold night air. "Thank you," the woman said, removing her coat slowly. Beneath it, she wore black from head to toe, tight-fitting, elegant, strangely timeless. "I'm Alara." Maya nodded cautiously. "Maya." They stood in silence for a moment, the only sound the storm raging outside and the crackling fire. Alara's eyes flicked toward it, but she made no move to get closer. Instead, she looked around the cabin as though cataloging every detail, walls lined with bookshelves, the heavy wool blankets draped over the couch, the collection of knives on the wall by the kitchen. "You live here alone?" she asked softly. "Yeah," Maya said. "I like the quiet. Must get lonely." Maya raised an eyebrow. "That's kind of the point." Alara smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. There was something distant in her, something held tight behind careful control. Maya felt it immediately, like the hum of a wire stretched too thin. And yet, she couldn't look away. There was something magnetic about her, something that unsettled her in a way she didn't understand. She offered her a towel and a cup of tea, which Alara took politely, but didn't drink. Her fingers curled around the warm mug like she was pretending to be human, performing a role she wasn't quite comfortable in. Hours passed. The storm didn't let up. Maya offered the couch. Alara accepted with a nod, folding herself into it with unnatural grace, her movements fluid, almost too quiet. Maya watched her from across the room, a book open in her lap, but unread. Every time Alara shifted, Maya's eyes followed. Every time Alara looked at her, it felt like a touch. Something was wrong. Not dangerous, yet, but deeply wrong. And still, she didn't ask her to leave. That night, long after Maya had gone to bed, she couldn't sleep. The wind had calmed, but something else buzzed in the air, an energy like a storm still crackling just beneath the surface. She padded softly to the living room, the wooden floor cool under her bare feet. Alara sat by the window, completely still, staring out into the snow. She didn't turn when Maya entered. "Can't sleep?" Maya asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Alara's response was slow. "I'm used to the night." Maya crossed her arms, watching her silhouette. You're not just some stranded driver, are you? Alara turned slowly. Her eyes gleamed in the dark, just for a second, like light catching on something not entirely human. What makes you say that? Call it instinct. Alara stood, moving closer, stopping just a few feet away. Maya's heart kicked. The air between them felt electric, like something ancient and waiting. Then maybe you should trust it, Alara whispered, and smiled, with just the faintest hint of teeth too sharp. Maya couldn't shake the image of Alara's smile, the way it curled just a little too perfectly, the gleam of something dangerous just beneath its surface. The next morning, the storm had calmed, leaving the world outside buried in heavy, pristine snow. A quiet, perfect white stillness. But inside the cabin, the air felt charged. Not tense, exactly, more like a string stretched taut just before it breaks. Alara moved around the space like she belonged in it, her steps light, her presence almost ghost-like. Maya had always trusted her instincts, and every nerve in her body was still on alert, screaming at her that Alara was not what she appeared to be. Yet something in her refused to pull away. Over breakfast, if it could be called that, since Alara touched nothing but a glass of water, Maya decided to probe. "Where were you heading before the storm?" she asked casually, watching the woman across from her with careful eyes. Alara didn't flinch, but there was a pause just a beat too long. "Nowhere in particular," she said smoothly. "Just driving." "Through the mountains during a snowstorm?" "I like the cold." Maya set her coffee mug down a little harder than necessary.
"Right."
"And your car's just, what? Abandoned by the road?" Alara tilted her head slightly, a glint of amusement in her eyes. "Do you always interrogate strangers who save you from dying of hypothermia?" "I always question people who don't blink and stare at me while I sleep," Maya shot back. That earned her a small, dry laugh. "I wasn't staring. I was watching the snow." "For 3 hours?" Alara leaned forward, her voice dropping to something low and intimate. "Do I make you nervous, Maya?" Maya's breath caught, but she didn't look away. "You make me curious." Alara smiled again, and this time there was something softer there, less calculated. "That's mutual." The tension thickened like fog. Maya stood abruptly, walking to the window, arms crossed tightly over her chest. She hated how this woman made her feel, off balance, exposed, seen. After years of choosing silence, choosing herself, it felt like Alara had walked in and peeled away layers Maya thought were long dead.
She didn't want to care.
Didn't want to feel this pull, this gravity that made her want to know every secret Alara held. But it was there, crawling under her skin, burning quietly. That afternoon, while Alara sat near the fireplace, never quite in its full warmth, Maya slipped out the back and hiked to where Alara claimed to have come from. There was no car, no tracks, just endless snow. When she returned, cheeks stung with cold and lungs tight from the altitude, Alara was still seated, unmoved, eyes closed like a statue in meditation. "You lied," Maya said, her voice low. Alara opened her eyes slowly. "I know." Silence stretched between them. "So, what are you running from?" Alara looked at her for a long time, something heavy shifting in her expression. "Everything," she whispered. "Everyone." Maya should have told her to leave. Should have felt fear, anger, something. But instead she sat down across from her and asked, "Are you dangerous?" Alara's gaze darkened. "Yes." "To me?"
A beat.
"I don't want to be." Maya's heart pounded, not from fear, but from something else entirely. That night, they sat in silence as the fire flickered shadows across the room. Alara's eyes kept drifting toward Maya's throat, her pulse, her skin. She didn't mean to look, but it was instinct, hunger, longing buried deep inside her that she had spent years suppressing. Maya noticed. She wasn't blind. "You keep looking at me like I'm dinner," she said dryly, half joking. Alara turned away sharply. "I'm sorry." "Hey," Maya said softly, rising to sit beside her. "Whatever it is you're not telling me, you're still here. You haven't hurt me. You don't understand. Then make me understand." Alara looked at her then, truly looked, like she was memorizing Maya's face, the curve of her jaw, the softness of her mouth. Her voice broke slightly. I haven't fed in weeks. Maya's stomach twisted, not in fear, but in sudden, terrifying understanding. Federal. Alara nodded once, barely perceptible. I didn't come here by accident. I was trying to disappear. I thought I could outrun it. But I can smell your heartbeat from across the room. It's torture. Yura, yes. The word was a breath, a confession. And I haven't taken blood from a human in almost a year. I made a vow. Why? Because I got tired of being a monster. Maya's breath hitched. Every rational part of her screamed to run. But she didn't move. She couldn't. Alara's presence pulled her in like gravity, ancient and undeniable. You're not a monster, she said quietly. You're trying. Alara turned away, her voice barely audible. You don't know what I'm capable of. Then show me. All of it. Stop hiding. Alara rose suddenly, too fast, and Maya's heart stuttered as the woman was suddenly inches from her. Her hand reached out, trembling, fingers brushing Maya's wrist, just barely. If I touch you, I might not stop. Maya didn't pull away. Then don't stop. The air snapped between them. Alara froze, teeth clenched, muscles tight with restraint. Her lips were inches from Maya's, her breath cold and uneven. And then she stepped back. Not yet, she whispered. I won't be that selfish. She disappeared into the bedroom, leaving Maya alone with a heart that refused to calm and a need she didn't know how to name. The next morning, Maya didn't see Alara. Her bed hadn't been slept in. The blanket remained folded neatly over the chair, the pillow untouched. Maya moved through the cabin with quiet footsteps, listening for any sound, any movement. Nothing. It was as though the vampire had vanished into mist. And yet, Maya could feel her, like a current humming in the air, lingering in the shadows, watching without presence. She made coffee, stared at the cup in her hands, and replayed the night before 1,000 times in her mind. Alara's voice, that near kiss, the confession of hunger that wasn't metaphorical. Vampire. The word echoed inside her, surreal and sharp. But she didn't doubt it. She couldn't. Alara's eyes in the dark, the way she moved, the unnatural stillness, it all made sense. What didn't make sense, what she couldn't understand, was why she wasn't afraid. Why she missed her. Why her chest ached with a hollow kind of need. By midday, Maya stepped out into the snow. The forest was dense, heavy with quiet, and the cold wrapped around her like a shroud. She didn't call Alara's name. She just walked. It didn't take long. Less than a mile in, she found her, sitting under a dead tree, arms wrapped around her knees, hair tangled with frost. Her eyes snapped open at Maya's approach, and they were different now, red-rimmed, hollowed by something deeper than fatigue. Hunger. You should go back, Alara said hoarsely, voice like broken ice. It's not safe. Then come with me. I can't. I'm losing control. I thought I could resist, but her voice broke. You smell like warmth, like life. Every second I'm near you, it gets worse. Maya took a slow breath, then knelt in front of her. Then let me help you. Don't. Alara snapped, eyes flashing with something feral. You don't know what you're offering. Then tell me. Alara was trembling. I haven't fed in weeks. If I touch you now, I might not stop. You think I'm just dangerous because I'm a vampire? She laughed, bitter and sharp.
No, Maya.
I'm dangerous because I want you, in every possible way. And wanting makes me careless. Maya didn't back away. Then be careless. Alara looked at her like she was something incomprehensible. Her hands trembled as they reached out, hovering just above Maya's neck. Her fingers brushed skin, and a shudder passed through her like lightning. This isn't fair, she whispered. You make me feel human again. Maya leaned closer. Good. The kiss came suddenly, like the snap of a branch, sharp, wild, inevitable. Alara's lips were cold at first, then warm as they moved against Maya's, desperate, hungry. It wasn't just about blood. It wasn't about the need that twisted inside Alara's chest like a blade. It was about connection, something she hadn't allowed herself in over a century. Maya's hands tangled in her hair, pulled her closer, deeper, and for a moment the hunger blurred into something else entirely. But then Alara pulled back with a gasp, her pupils blown wide, breath ragged. "I can't," she choked out. "I'll hurt you." "You won't," Maya said, but Alara was already backing away, faster than human eyes could follow. She disappeared into the forest, leaving Maya alone in the snow, lips still tingling, body still burning. Love what you've seen so far and want to help me keep creating these awesome stories on this channel? Then subscribe and hit the bell. Your subscription supports the channel and makes sure you get more exciting stories. That night, Maya waited. And waited. The fire burned low. The hours dragged on. She couldn't sleep. Couldn't stop replaying the way Alara had kissed her like she was starving not just for blood, but for her. The next day, Maya found Alara again, this time curled up inside the small shed near the cabin, face pale, eyes closed, body still. She looked dead. Maya dropped to her knees, shaking her. "Alara." "Nothing." "Damn it, wake up." Alara's eyes fluttered open, unfocused. "I can't. You're dying," Maya said, heart racing. "You need blood. Take it. From me." Alara's voice was a whisper.
No.
"You don't understand what it does. The bond it creates. I don't care." Maya grabbed a knife from her pocket, the same one she carried on her belt since she moved into the woods, and without hesitation, dragged the edge across her palm. Blood welled instantly, bright and warm. Alara's body reacted before her mind could stop it. She lunged, catching Maya's wrist in her hand, but she hesitated, trembling violently. "Don't tempt me," she whispered. "You already said you want me," Maya said, voice shaking. "So take me." That broke her. Alara's lips closed over the cut, and the instant her mouth touched Maya's skin, the world tilted. Fire shot through Maya's body, not from pain but from something far more primal, something that unspooled her nerve by nerve. Alara drank in slow, controlled pulls, each second excruciatingly intimate. Maya gasped, head falling back, her free hand gripping Alara's shoulder to stay grounded. It was like being unraveled and put back together all at once. And then Alara stopped, pulled away, her mouth stained red, eyes wide with horror. "I didn't mean to. You didn't," Maya said, dizzy but alive, heart pounding in her ears. Alara stared at her, stunned. "Why would you do that?" "Because you were dying." "You don't know what this means. That kind of exchange, it ties us." Maya nodded slowly.
Good.
"Then maybe now you'll stop running." Maya had always believed she was unshakable. That was the whole point of her life in the mountains. No chaos, no complications, no feelings she couldn't control. But that morning, she woke up gasping, her body flushed, her heart pounding not from a nightmare, but from a dream that didn't feel like hers. A dream of fire and moonlight, of hunger stretching across centuries. She sat up, eyes wide, breath ragged, and knew instantly it was Alara. Somewhere in the cabin, the vampire was awake. And afraid. Maya didn't knock. She pushed open the door to the guest room to find Alara curled up against the far wall, knees drawn to her chest, her expression unreadable. The firelight painted shadows across her skin, highlighting the sharpness of her cheekbones, the tension in her jaw, and the faint glow of her eyes in the dim light. "You felt it," Alara said without turning. Maya didn't ask what. She already knew. Yes. Alara closed her eyes. "I told you. Blood like that, it connects us. I thought I could resist it. But now," her voice cracked. "Now I feel everything." Maya stepped closer, her voice soft. "What did I see?" Alara didn't answer at first. She just stared ahead, trapped in memory. "It was Rome," she said finally. "Year 1089. I burned a village to the ground. Not out of hatred. Not even hunger. Just because I was angry." Her lips twisted. I haven't dreamed of that night in centuries. Until you. Maya sat beside her, their shoulders almost touching. Then let me carry it with you. Alara looked at her with something like disbelief. Why are you still here? Because you're not the only one haunted by what you've done. The silence between them thickened, not cold, but charged. Maya could feel it, the tug beneath her skin, like invisible threads tightening, pulling her closer to Alara with every breath. The bond wasn't just metaphorical. It was living, breathing, wrapping around her ribcage like a second heartbeat. That night, it pulsed. Maya couldn't sleep. Her body burned like it remembered Alara's mouth on her skin, like her own blood called out for more. She found Alara in the living room again, staring at the fire, motionless as stone. Can't sleep, Maya said, her voice thin. I know, Alara replied. I can feel it. You're warm, restless. It's like I'm not alone in my own head. Alara turned, her expression unreadable. You're not. Maya crossed the room slowly, sat down beside her. So tell me everything. No more half-truths. Alara was quiet for a long time. Then she said, I was turned when I was 19, against my will, by someone I trusted. Her voice went flat. I spent the first 50 years feral, killing without reason. I had no one. And when I finally found others like me, they were worse. She paused. I lived among a coven for over 200 years. We fed, we seduced, we took. It wasn't until I fell in love that I began to change. Maya's breath caught. What happened to her? She died. Not because of me, but because of what I am. What I brought into her life. Alara looked at Maya now, eyes dark and glassy. I swore never to love again. Never to feed from someone I cared about. And then I walked into your life. Maya reached out, took Alara's hand. You didn't walk in. You were drawn. And now you're tied to me in ways you can't undo. Then maybe I don't want to undo it. Alara's jaw clenched, her eyes narrowing with something like pain. You don't understand. That kind of blood exchange, it creates more than just a bond. It makes you susceptible, vulnerable. If I'm hurt, you'll feel it. If I'm hunted, she trailed off. Maya stiffened. Hunted. Alara looked at her then, truly looked. They'll come eventually. Vampires can sense when one of us breaks the rules. Feeding from someone without turning them, it draws attention, especially from those who still remember me. Maya's blood turned cold. Who? His name is Silas. He made me, and he doesn't forgive. As if summoned by the very mention, something shifted outside. The wind died. The trees stopped moving. And for a second, the world held its breath. Maya crossed the room quickly and looked out the window. Nothing. Just endless snow. Still, she felt it, like ice crawling up her spine. Alara was already moving, faster than Maya could track. He's near. How do you know? Alara grabbed Maya's hand. Because I can feel him the same way I feel you. Panic tried to rise in Maya's throat, but she shoved it down. Then what do we do? Alara hesitated. We run. You just said he'd find you. He'll sense me, Alara said. But he won't expect me to protect anyone. He'll expect me to run alone. Maya tightened her grip. Then don't run alone. Alara looked at her like she was something impossible. I've lost everyone I've ever loved. Then maybe this time, don't let go. Alara's eyes burned. She leaned forward, pressed her forehead against Maya's. If he touches you, I'll tear him apart. Maya's breath shuddered. Good. I'm not going anywhere. But outside, in the snow-covered woods, something watched. And it smiled. The snow fell in slow, lazy spirals, deceptively peaceful. But the air had changed. It pressed against Maya's skin like invisible hands, colder than the wind, sharper than any blade. She stood at the window for hours after Alara had gone to prepare the forest's edge, watching nothing, listening for something. A shadow. A sound. Anything that could confirm what her bones already knew. He was out there. Silas. The name lingered like a toxin on her tongue. Alara hadn't said much after her warning. only that he was ancient, cruel, and brilliant in ways that made him impossible to outrun for long. Maya should have been afraid, but what she felt was something deeper. A low thrum inside her, dark and primal, as if something buried had begun to wake. Since the blood exchange, Maya's body didn't feel like her own. She moved through her cabin with heightened senses, hearing the creak of wood like a scream, seeing the flutter of flames with a clarity that cut. But it wasn't just perception. It was connection. Every time Alara drifted too far, Maya could feel it, a tug at her ribs, a strange ache behind her sternum. Her skin warmed when Alara was near. It burned when she wasn't. That night, Maya walked through the trees alone. Alara had begged her to stay inside, to be safe, but something in her refused to be caged. She could feel the presence out there, not just Alara's, but his. She didn't know what she was doing, only that her feet moved like they belonged to someone else. The bond pulsed. And then he appeared. No sound. No warning. One blink, and she was no longer alone. He stood maybe 20 feet away, draped in a coat the color of dried blood, tall and regal, with eyes like dying embers. He looked nothing like Alara. There was no beauty in him, no softness. Only power. And rot. Maya froze. "You're the girl," Silas said, his voice low and cultured, like he'd stepped out of a forgotten century. "The one she broke the rules for." "You must be Silas," she replied, trying to keep her voice steady. He smiled. It wasn't kind. She was always dramatic. I knew she'd try to run. But I didn't expect this. Sharing blood. Creating a tether. It's adorable, really. Maya stood her ground. "If you came here for Alara, I think you already know what she's willing to do." "Of course," he said smoothly. "But I didn't come for her." He took a step forward. "I came for you." The bond between Maya and Alara ignited like a flare. Maya's knees almost buckled from the pressure behind her eyes, like something dark was pressing against her thoughts, testing the edges of her mind. "You have no idea what she gave you," Silas whispered, circling her like a wolf. "It's not just hunger. It's memory. Strength. Darkness. You carry centuries inside you now." He stopped inches from her, and his breath was like winter. "Let me show you." His hand reached toward her chest, but before he could touch her, Maya grabbed his wrist.
Not gently.
And when she did, something inside her snapped. A rush of images. Alara's first kill. Her screams under stone. The sound of fire. The taste of blood. The curve of her fangs. And then something darker. Older. Power that didn't belong to either of them. It exploded through Maya's veins. She screamed, not from pain, but from transformation. The snow around her erupted in a sudden burst of wind. Trees groaned. The world shifted. Maya pushed Silas back with strength that startled them both. Her eyes burned with an amber light. Her skin felt too tight, her heart beating with a rhythm that wasn't entirely human. "What did you do to me?" she gasped. Silas stepped back, smiling with genuine delight. "Oh, she really didn't tell you." "Tell me what?" He laughed. "That when a vampire shares blood with someone they feel for, the bond doesn't just connect. It changes. Your body isn't just linked to hers, Maya. It's becoming like hers."
Her throat dried.
"You're lying." "A little," he said, still amused. "You won't turn without dying first. But you're not human anymore either. You're a threshold."
And thresholds?
"They break easily." Suddenly, he was gone. One blink, and the space where he stood was empty again. Maya collapsed to her knees, shaking, the bond between her and Alara pulsing wildly now. She felt pain. Not hers. Alara's. Somewhere not far. A slash to the arm. Fire in her ribs. Maya ran. When she found Alara, she was bleeding. Not much, but enough to make Maya's stomach twist. Her attacker wasn't Silas, but something else. One of his creations. A thin woman with white eyes and claws like glass, snarling as she moved in again. Maya didn't think. She moved. Faster than she should have. Stronger than she ever had. Her body collided with the creature's, slamming it into a tree with enough force to shake snow from the branches. Alara stared, stunned, as Maya turned back to her, panting, wild-eyed. Don't say it, Maya snapped, voice shaking. Just tell me what the hell is happening to me. Alara stepped forward, touching her face like it was something fragile. You're changing. Into what? Into mine, she whispered, then kissed her like the world was ending. The snow had stopped falling, but everything in the world still felt suspended, like nature itself was holding its breath. Maya stood in the doorway of her cabin, blood still pounding in her ears, the taste of Alara's kiss lingering like wildfire on her lips. She felt electric, raw, like her skin couldn't contain what now lived inside her. Her muscles thrummed with unnatural tension. Her vision had sharpened to the point where she could see the pulse fluttering at Alara's throat. She could hear the creak of distant trees, the scurrying of something beneath the snow 100 yards away. Everything was louder, brighter, wilder. Alara paced the room behind her, speaking quietly but urgently, her voice laced with guilt and something deeper, fear. I didn't know it would happen so fast, she said. The change. It's accelerated by proximity. The more you're near me, the stronger the bond becomes. It's not just the blood. It's everything. Your emotions, your desires, your instincts. They're blending with mine. Maya turned to face her, jaw clenched. I can feel you. Not just your presence, but your hunger, your hesitation, your fear. It's like it's in my body now, not just yours. Alara's eyes shimmered. I didn't want this for you. You didn't ask me, Maya snapped. You were starving. I made the choice to feed you. I made the choice to stay. And now I'm changing, whether you wanted it or not. Alara stepped closer, hesitating only for a breath before brushing her fingers against Maya's cheek. You don't understand what that means. If you change completely, there's no going back. You'll never be able to return to the life you had. And if Silas realizes how far the change has already gone, he'll either try to finish it or kill you before it's complete. Maya stared at her. And what do you want? I want to protect you. No, Maya said, voice trembling. That's not what I asked.
What do you want from me?
Alara looked like she wanted to lie, to retreat into the cold distance she wore like armor. But she didn't. Instead, her voice dropped to a whisper. I want you to want this. I want you to choose me, even knowing what I am, even knowing what it might make you. Maya stepped closer, their breath mingling now. Then stop trying to protect me from you. Alara's restraint cracked. She cupped Maya's face and kissed her again, harder, deeper, filled with centuries of want she had buried under silence. Maya kissed her back with a kind of desperation that only comes from discovering a new version of yourself and realizing you'll burn down the world to keep it. They didn't make it to the bedroom. Clothes were forgotten, mouths greedy, bodies pressed together in front of the fire like they were trying to burn away the last fragments of who they'd been before this moment. Alara's hands moved over Maya's skin reverently, like she couldn't believe she was allowed to touch her. Maya gasped when she felt Alara's lips at her throat, and for a moment the tension between desire and danger peaked. Alara pulled away, trembling, fangs exposed, eyes dark with hunger. Maya whispered, "Don't stop." Alara's mouth trembled against her neck. "I won't take more blood."
Not now.
"Not until you know everything." "Then tell me," Maya breathed, her voice shaky, her fingers tightening on Alara's back. "Tell me everything." They stayed together that way, skin against skin, tangled in heat and firelight and breathless confessions. And when dawn approached and the fire had died down, Alara finally spoke the truth Maya hadn't yet heard. "Silas didn't just turn me," she said softly. "He created me to be something specific. A weapon. He was obsessed with the idea of a vampire who could survive without killing. A creature that could pass as human, seduce their prey, manipulate them into surrender. He thought emotions made us weak. But I felt too much. I started to care. That's why he tried to break me." Maya traced a finger down Alara's spine. "You left him." "I ran," Alara corrected. "And he's been hunting me ever since. Not because I betrayed him, but because I succeeded. I lived. I changed. And now so have you. Maya sat up, naked beneath the blankets, heart pounding. You think I'm part of whatever experiment he started? No, Ilara said, eyes fierce. I think you're something else entirely. I think you're what he feared I could become if I ever stopped running. So, what do we do? Maya asked. Wait for him to come back. No, Ilara said, rising from the bed with purpose in every movement. We go to him. We end this on our terms. Maya stood slowly, feeling the new weight of her body, the power humming beneath her skin like thunder before a storm. You think I can fight him? I think you're stronger than you know. You're not fully turned, but that gives you an edge. Your humanity is still intact. Your choices are still yours. And if I lose control? Ilara met her gaze, without flinching. Then I'll be the one to bring you back. The next few days were a blur of preparation. Maya felt herself growing faster, stronger, her body no longer limited by exhaustion or pain. She hunted without killing, testing herself, learning how to move, how to fight, how to endure. Ilara trained her in silence, never holding back, never coddling her. Their connection deepened with each bruise, each whispered command, each stolen glance that burned hotter than the last. And yet something was shifting. The bond wasn't just emotional anymore. Maya began hearing thoughts that weren't hers. Feelings she couldn't explain. Visions that came like dreams in the middle of the day. She saw Silas through Ilara's memories, his voice like velvet and poison, his cruelty hidden behind charm. She felt the fear he planted in her, the way he tried to own her. And worse, Maya began to feel his awareness, like eyes crawling under her skin, watching, waiting. One night, as she walked alone through the forest, testing her new senses, she felt a whisper in the back of her mind. You're not hers. You're mine. Maya froze. Get out of my head.
But you let her in.
You drank. You shared. That bond is a doorway. And I just stepped through it. Pain lanced through her skull like ice. She dropped to her knees, panting, clutching her head. Then, Ilara was there.
She didn't ask.
She just wrapped her arms around Maya, grounding her, whispering her name over and over until the pain faded. He found the bond, Maya said through gritted teeth. He's using it. Ilara's voice was tight. We don't have much time. If he can speak through it, he can follow it. Maya looked up, a dark light in her eyes. Then let him come. I'm done hiding. I want to burn him out of me. Ilara stared at her like she was seeing her for the first time. You're becoming something he can't control. Good, Maya said. Let's show him what happens when you try to own something that chooses to be wild. The mountains gave way to silence as Maya and Ilara descended into the valley, their footsteps crunching over brittle snow, the night pressing against them like a living thing. The cabin was behind them now, nothing more than a shadow swallowed by distance, and ahead stretched the ruins of a town long dead, a place that smelled of rust, decay, and memory. The bond pulsed inside Maya with every step, tugging her toward something darker, heavier, inevitable. She could feel Silas like a whisper beneath her skin, his presence threaded into the marrow of her bones. Each mile closer made her body hum with a pressure that wasn't entirely hers. Ilara walked beside her, unnaturally still, her face carved from stone, but Maya could feel the storm inside her, fear, desire, determination, like a second heartbeat. They hadn't spoken much since leaving the cabin. Words felt too fragile for what was coming. But when the city appeared before them, blackened and skeletal against the moon, Ilara finally broke the silence. This place, she said quietly, was where he made me. Maya's chest tightened. The town was half collapsed, its buildings standing like bones stripped of flesh, windows shattered, streets fractured by time and frost. Everything reeked of abandonment, but Maya felt no peace here. Only a weight pressing down, like the earth itself remembered screams. He'll expect us, Maya said. He's already watching. Ilara nodded once. He'll come at night. He always did. They took shelter in what had once been a church, its roof caved in, its walls cracked but still standing tall enough to shield them from the wind. Candles lined the broken altar, Alara's doing, and their flames threw trembling shadows across the ruined pews. Maya stood in the center, restless, her body thrumming with too much energy, too much want. "I can feel him," she said, her voice sharp. "He's close." Alara moved behind her, placing her hands on Maya's shoulders. "You have to resist him. If you let him inside too far, he'll twist the bond, use it against you. He'll turn what connects us into a chain." Maya closed her eyes, leaning back into Alara's touch. "Then give me something stronger to hold on to." Alara pressed her lips to Maya's temple. "Stay with me. No matter what you feel, no matter what he shows you. Stay with me." Maya nodded, but even as she did, a shiver ripped down her spine. The bond flared, hot and violent, and suddenly she wasn't in the church anymore. She was standing in a street filled with fire, her skin searing, her lungs choking on ash. Screams filled the air, bodies burned, and in the middle of it all stood Silas, smiling like a god among ruin. "This is what she hides from you," his voice whispered, slithering through her skull. "The monster she pretends she isn't. You've tasted her blood, her hunger. You know it's there. How long until she turns it on you?" "Shut up," Maya hissed, but her voice echoed only in her head. "She'll kill you, just as she killed them. But me? I could make you strong. Stronger than her. Strong enough to never be weak again." A hand touched her arm, and she flinched, expecting Silas, but it was Alara, her face strained, her body shimmering like a reflection through smoke. "Maya," she said firmly, "this isn't real. He's pulling you into memory. Fight it." "He's showing me what you did," Maya said, trembling. "The fires, the bodies." Alara's jaw clenched. "Yes, I did those things. I don't hide from them anymore. But they're mine, not yours. Don't let him make them yours." Maya gasped as the world twisted again, the church returning around her, the fire fading, the taste of smoke vanishing from her tongue. She fell to her knees, shaking, and Alara caught her, holding her against her chest. "He's inside me," Maya said, voice breaking. "I don't know how much longer I can." A sound cut her off. Applause. Slow, deliberate, echoing through the ruins like a blade dragged across stone. Maya and Alara turned, and there he was, Silas. He stood in the doorway of the church, taller than Maya remembered, draped in a coat that looked spun from shadows, his eyes glowing faintly red. He looked at Alara first, his smile sharp. Little fledgling, always running, always disappointing. Then his gaze slid to Maya, and his smile deepened. "And you, the threshold. I wondered if you'd survive the pull. Not many do." Maya rose to her feet, blood pounding in her ears. "I'm not yours." Silas tilted his head. "Everything about you is mine. The bond, the hunger, the strength. Even your anger, you think it's yours? It's my gift, flowing through you every time you touched her blood." Alara stepped forward, her voice like steel. "She is not yours. She never will be." Silas laughed. "You sound so certain. But you've forgotten one thing. Bonds cut both ways." He raised a hand, and Maya screamed as fire shot through her chest, her knees buckling under the weight of his will. She felt her own hands tremble, reaching against her will, reaching for him. Alara grabbed her, holding her back, shouting her name. Maya's vision blurred. She couldn't tell where her thoughts ended and Silas's began. Darkness clawed at her, promising strength, promising freedom from weakness, from fear, from pain. "Give in," Silas whispered, "and you'll never have to be afraid again." But then Alara's voice cut through it all, raw, desperate, breaking. "Maya, listen to me. You're not his. You're mine. And I'm yours. Choose me." Maya gasped, the fire inside her faltering, the darkness splitting under the weight of Alara's words. She clung to the sound of her name, to the feel of Alara's arms, to the bond that wasn't chains but threads woven from something older, Something stronger. Choice. She stood, trembling but steady. I choose her. Silas's smile faltered. Then you've chosen death. He blurred forward, faster than sight, and the church exploded into chaos as the battle began. Maya did not feel her body move so much as hear it happening from a distance. The crack of rotten pews underfoot, the hiss of shattered stained glass, as Silas's blur of motion sent a halo of colored shards spinning through cold air, the snap of her own breath as instinct, not reason, wrenched her forward. He came at her like a knife thrown from the hand of God, elegant and merciless, and she met him with a strength that had no human memory, fingers locking around his wrist, the impact ringing up her bones like a bell struck deep inside rock. The world narrowed to sensation, the iron tang of old blood baked into the church stones, the bitter aftersmell of the fire he had stitched into her mind minutes before, the cold silk of Alara's presence brushing the back of her consciousness, steady, steady, stay with me, and the poisonous sweetness of Silas's voice coiling through the bond like smoke in a chimney you can't unseal. He smiled while they fought. Of course he did. He was a creature who had made slaughter a performance, and every shift of his weight carried centuries of violence like choreography. You were made for this, he murmured as her fist collided with his chest, the blow sending him sliding over broken tiles. You are the hinge where mercy breaks. Maya's knuckles split and healed in the same heartbeat, the pain already turning to heat, and something inside her purred at the cycle, a dark animal pacing inside ribs turned cage. It felt good, too good, to be strong, to be fast, to watch an ancient thing blink in surprised respect. Then he was behind her, no warning, no sound, and she turned not with thought but with the invisible tug of Alara in her marrow, the echo of a gasp that wasn't physical guiding her to duck as claws skated over her scalp and tore stone from the pillar instead of skin. She kicked backward, caught Silas's knee, heard a crack, and heard him laugh. Lovely, he said, and the floor bucked under her feet, not from his hands but from his will, the pressure in her head spiking as he wove the bond like a net. Images hit her in strobe, a child's hand turning cold in a river, a red room with no doors, Alara on her knees before fire because she had begged to be punished rather than turned into what he wanted. The nausea was as physical as a blow. Maya staggered, tasted metal and night. Stay with me, Alara said aloud now, close and fierce, and Maya felt the words stake into her like a pin-fixing butterfly wings, an anchoring, not an injury. Alara struck then, too fast for Maya's eyes but not for their tether, her body a streak of darkness as she raked at Silas's face. He tilted aside, elegant even in avoidance, but her nails sliced his cheek and he bled like stars spilled onto snow, bright and obscene. His head snapped toward her, the smile thinning into something sharp and private. Always the sentimental one, he murmured, and the next second the church roof screamed. Beams wrenched and fell as if a giant had shifted in his sleep. Alara pivoted, pushed Maya out from under a collapsing rib of wood, and took the blow herself, not the crush of timber, but the invisible force that rode through it, a lash of wool that ripped through the bond like barbed wire. Pain hit Maya's chest so hard she blacked out for a blink. She came back with a howl in her mouth that wasn't human, her vision gone to a hot amber tunnel where Silas was the only living color. She threw herself at him with all the new, terrible speed that had been blooming in her since the exchange, and for a heartbeat she owned him, hands at his throat, hip driving him through the altar, the old stone coughing dust like a dying organ. Mine, something inside her said, and the word shocked her, not because of its hunger, but because it sounded like Alara and like herself at once, a chord played on two strings. Silas's eyes flashed with real interest. There you are, he said, delighted, and exhaled a word into the world that wasn't any human shape. The air convulsed. The ruin was gone. They were in a corridor of mirrors without walls, a trick space built from will and blood, and in every reflection Alara burned. Alara feeding, Alara failing, Alara turning away from bodies she could have saved because night had limits, and so did she. He's lying, Maya snarled, but the worst part was that he wasn't. Memory didn't lie. It only framed the truth like a blade. She would have drowned in it, might have run at Alara herself with teeth bared, an animal outraged at weakness, if not for the tiny pulse that beat low in her belly, like a second heart. The bond again, yes, but not just a leash, an answer. Alara's presence didn't plead. It met her. It showed her the same mirrors from the other side, Alara's hand shaking after that first burning village, the way she had carried the names of the dead like prayer beads, the century she had spent learning to starve because she refused to be a ruin anymore. Choice, not excuse. Maya spat into her palm, smeared her blood across one mirror, and it went black as if she'd painted over the sky. Get out of my head, she told Silas, and the corridor shivered into the church again, candles guttering, snow drifting through the mauled roof like pale ash. Very good, he said, eyes delighted. Now, let's peel you all the way open. He whistled. The church doors exploded inward, and two figures poured in with the night. A man with wrists encircled in silver wire, muscles roped tight from a century of bindings that had taught him to love pain, and a girl whose eyes were milk and moon, the same feral thing that had slashed Alara days before. They moved like water poured downhill. Alara interposed herself in front of Maya without hesitation, and Maya wanted to snarl because she didn't need protection and wanted to pray because she did. The fight became music written in bruises. Maya met the wire-bound man, and sparks spat where silver kissed her skin. The burn ate into her nerves like acid, but the new body answered by knitting the damage as fast as it came, and she learned his rhythm the way you learn a language in your lover's mouth, by failing and trying until the pattern reveals itself. She let him wrap her arm to fake a bind, then flipped him into a fractured pew, wrenched the wire around his throat, and felt his pulse flutter like a trapped bird. She could end him. She could. The part of her that was hunger sang for it. End it, and the leash inside almost snapped. Maya loosened the wire instead and slammed his head into stone. Not dead, not yet, because mercy was a choice and she needed to keep choosing even when the dark in her purred. Across the nave, Alara danced with the white-eyed girl, a duet that was more grief than hatred. They had known each other in some other ruin. Maya felt it, an orphan turned pet turned weapon, and Alara fought like she wanted to kill and apologize at once. Silas watched as if attending the opera he had commissioned, and when Maya turned toward him again, he lifted one hand. The bond cinched tight around her throat from the inside. She choked, clawed at nothing, and heard Alara scream her name like it could unmake a curse. You see? Silas breathed. Every road leads to me. Even the one where you think you've chosen love. He pulled. Maya felt the worst thing, her own feet moving toward him. It wasn't dramatic, just steady. Terror didn't arrive in a blaze. It came like a tide that didn't ask. She looked at Alara. The vampire's eyes were blown wide, her body blood-streaked, and in them Maya saw no plea, no surrender. Only an offering. Alara reached for her, not with hands but with memory. The curve of morning on the cabin window, the taste of tea she had never drunk, the feel of Maya's laughter the first time it had surprised them both. She didn't say don't. She said yes. Take this instead of his pull. Take everything I am and use it to anchor yourself. Maya set her jaw. I choose you, she said again, but this time she said it like a spell. She bit her tongue until blood flooded her mouth, swallowed, and reached along the bond with both fists, not to tug Alara closer but to pull herself back into the shape of the person she had been deciding to become. The tether thrummed like a harp string plucked by a storm. Silas's will yanked hard. Maya yanked harder. Something tore. A sound. Not sound. The world compensated around a break that shouldn't have been possible, and then the leash on her mind slackened. For half a heartbeat she was free enough to move like a thought. She surged at Silas and drove him through a column. Dust engulfed them. He laughed even as he coughed. Perfect, he said, delighted, wiping blood from his lip. Now give me the rest. He didn't mean her body. He meant surrender. He meant the part of her that had begun to love the way strength eclipsed fear. The church shook again. Outside, wolves began to howl, or perhaps it was wind or memory. The line between the three had blurred. The wireman lurched up, throat bruised, and clawed for Maya's ankle. She stomped without looking, heard bones splinter, then flinched because she had not meant to crush. Mercy was a choice, but so was survival, and the two were not married by law. The white-eyed girl broke from Alara with a hiss and hurled herself at Maya's back. Alara intersected midair, caught the girl by the waist, and twisted. There was a scream, a human one, so young, and Alara's face crumpled even as she put the girl down like a broken doll. Silas clucked his tongue. Sentiment. Always your flaw. He moved, blur, and blade. Maya reached, but he was already there, behind Alara, hand-fisted in her hair, yanking her head back to bare the throat he had made immortal. You wanted choice? He whispered against Alara's skin, and Maya felt the words like frost on bone. Choose now. He nicked Alara's throat with a nail and smeared her blood in the air like ink. It burned red and wrong. A sigil slashed open the world. Tendrils of dark force unspooled, shimmering like oil, and wrapped Alara's wrists and ankles. She gasped, not from pain but from the insult of the thing. Bonds written in the very language of the turning that had made her. Maya lunged. The tendrils seized her, too, late but effective, biting into her skin with hot-cold needles. The bond writhed, furious. Power crackled between them like lightning looking for a tree. Silas's smile went soft and paternal. Hush, he told the storm. It's time she learned what love costs. He lifted his hand, and the sigil cinched. Alara's body bowed. The sound she made a thin, terrible thread that pulled the world tight. Maya tore against her restraints until her muscles screamed. Something in her vision went gray at the edges. Stop, she said, and hated how small it sounded. Hurt me instead. I am, Silas said simply. The honesty of it made her see stars. She could break herself trying to reach him. He had built this trap inside her veins and hers. She needed another angle. The bond offered one, thrumming like a wire that could be turned into a blade. Maya reached for Alara with everything the night had taught her. The memory of the cabin, the laughter, the kiss under dead trees, the savage joy of choosing someone and being chosen back. She shoved it all down the tether like sunlight forced into a cave. The tendrils flickered, as if embarrassed by light. Alara's head jerked toward Maya, eyes bright and wet and furious and in love. Together, she said, and even bound she moved, twisting her wrists so the sigils slid where her scars from other lives already lived. Pain is a door if you choose it, Maya felt her decide. Maya mirrored her, not in body but in will, turning the bond so it cut. The tendrils screamed. How could rope scream? And then two of them snapped. Silas's pleasant mask slipped. Enough, he hissed, and the church floor split like skin opening under a scalpel. From the crack rose iron-thin spines of night, a cage that wasn't iron but memory of iron, stronger for being idea. It closed around Alara in a perfect form, a coffin of nothing that felt like always. Maya threw herself at the bars and they entered her palms without entering, a paradox that bled anyway. Don't, Alara said, and smiled the way saints do when they are about to be dragged from altars. Live. Hunt him tomorrow. I can take one more night. No, Maya said, her voice breaking open. I won't. You will, Silas said, gentled again, and dragged a finger down the outside of the nothing coffin. It sank into the not metal like water, and Alara flinched. There are rules to thresholds, he told Maya, almost instructive. Close enough to taste, far enough to starve. Come to the old rail bridge at dusk tomorrow, little hinge. Bring the part of you that still thinks daylight belongs to her. If you don't, I will teach her what eternity feels like minute by minute. He leaned close, not to Maya, to the coffin, and whispered a word that made the bond recoil like a struck dog. Then he and the cage and Alara were gone, not with a bang, but with the quiet of a door closing in a house you thought was empty. Silence fell so hard the candles sounded like rain. Maya stood in it with her hands bleeding and her lungs full of knives. She was alone in a ruin that smelled like her own helplessness. For a moment the dark in her tried to fix it the only way it knew. Break, burn, bite. but there was nothing left to kill that would bring Alara back. The wireman moaned. The white-eyed girl sobbed without tears. The snow sifted through the roof and landed on Maya's shoulders like ash from a different century. She closed her eyes and forced herself to breathe and count and choose. When she opened them, she was not less broken, only pointed. She wiped her palms on her shirt, tasted blood that tasted like winter and want, and whispered to the bond like it could hear her across whatever prison held her love. "Hold on. I'm coming." And somewhere, very faintly, through the ache and the silence, the bond answered like a weak light that refused to go out. The days that followed were not days at all, but jagged hours cut into her skin like glass, every one of them humming with the absence of Alara. Maya had never known silence could be so violent. The cabin, once her sanctuary, was now suffocating, every corner aching with memory. Alara at the window staring into snow, Alara's mouth at her throat, Alara's laugh, rare, surprised, soft, echoing through the walls. The bond pulsed in her constantly, faint but undeniable, a throb like a distant drum that reminded her Alara was alive, bound and waiting. Waiting for her. The ultimatum clawed at her mind, the old rail bridge at dusk. She could feel the place tugging at her like a wound that hadn't healed, the bond vibrating in its direction even when she closed her eyes.
But she was not ready, not yet,
to face Silas as she would be to break. She needed more. She needed control. She needed power. The ruined church still stank of violence when she returned. The man with silver wire scars lay broken where she had left him, his breath shallow but steady, his eyes open and sharp with pain that had been companion for centuries. The girl with the milk-white eyes sat in the corner, knees to chest, whispering nonsense to herself. Maya entered like a storm, boots cracking on the frozen floor. "You want to live?" she asked the man. He laughed, blood bubbling from his lip. "I already did. Too long. Then help me end him."
He coughed.
"You think you can?" Maya leaned down, her voice sharp as steel. "I don't think. I will. With or without you." The white-eyed girl stirred, her pale gaze fixing on Maya like a child's first sight of fire. "He'll punish you," she whispered, her voice like broken glass. "He always punishes." Maya knelt in front of her. "He can't punish you if he's ash." The girl blinked slowly, confusion and hope warring in her hollow eyes. "You can't kill him. He's forever." "Then I'll be longer than forever," Maya said. Something in her voice made the girl flinch, and then nod, just once, like a bird startled into flight. They weren't allies, not truly, but desperation had its own gravity. With their fragmented knowledge, Maya learned pieces of Silas she hadn't known, rituals he favored, words he feared, the way he had bound his children not just with power but with shame. The girl revealed the scar hidden beneath her collarbone, a mark carved in blood and fire that tied her to his will. "He brands us," she whispered, "so he always knows where we are." Maya touched the scar lightly, feeling the heat of it through her fingertips. An idea sparked in her chest. Wild, dangerous, but necessary. She needed to invert the bond. Use what Silas had made into a cage and turn it into a blade. That night, under a broken sky, she bled herself into the snow. The silver wire man guided her through fragments of rituals Silas had once muttered when drunk on blood. His voice cracked but steady, and the girl's pale fingers traced patterns in the air, symbols Maya could feel more than see. Pain burned through her like acid, but she did not stop. She fed her blood into the bond, forcing it outward, weaving her will into its threads. Not his. Not chains. Mine. The bond twisted, shuddered, screamed inside her skull, but it bent. For the first time since the exchange, Maya felt not just Alara's presence, but a glimpse of her strength, her defiance, her love burning like a coal in the dark. Alara whispered her name across the distance, and it nearly shattered Maya, but she held on, feeding everything into the tether until her body gave out and the ritual ended in unconsciousness. She woke at dawn with frost in her hair, her hands shaking, her body aching with new scars. But the bond was different now. Not passive. Not a leash. A weapon. Dusk came like judgment. The bridge rose from the valley like the bones of a giant, its iron ribs twisted with rust, its wooden planks half-rotted, its spans stretching across a gorge that howled with wind and water. The sky burned bruised purple, and Maya stood at the edge, her body trembling with exhaustion and power, her companions behind her silent and brittle as broken statues. She could feel Silas waiting at the center, patient, smug, unshakable. And she could feel Alara too, her pulse weak but alive, her presence muted but burning for her. She stepped onto the bridge. Every creak of wood under her boots echoed like a drumbeat. The air tasted of rust and blood. Shadows bent strangely here, as if the sun itself feared to touch the place. Halfway across, she saw him. Silas stood tall, immaculate as ever, Alara kneeling at his side, the coffin of nothing gone but chains of shadow coiled around her wrists like serpents. She looked up when Maya approached, and in her eyes burned not despair, not surrender, but fury and love so fierce it nearly drove Maya to her knees. Silas spread his arms as if welcoming a guest. "Little threshold," he said, his voice carrying across the bridge like silk sliding over blades. "You came." "I told you," Maya said, her voice steady. "I'm not yours." "Not yet," he said with a smile. "But tonight you will be. To save her, you'll give me the part of you that still resists. Or you'll watch her burn." He snapped his fingers, and the chains around Alara flared, searing into her skin. She didn't scream. She only glared at him with hatred that could have scorched stone. Maya's blood roared. The bond flared between them, wild and furious, begging her to act, to tear, to burn. She stepped forward, every muscle taut. "You want me?" she said. "Then try to take me." Silas's smile deepened. The shadows rose, and the bridge itself groaned like an animal waking. The final battle began. The bridge groaned under Maya's boots as she stepped into the bruised light of dusk, the gorge below howling with wind. At its center stood Silas, tall and regal, Alara bound at his side in chains of shadow. Her eyes found Maya's immediately, fierce and alive despite the bonds biting into her skin. That look, unyielding, burning, was enough to steady every trembling part of Maya. "Threshold," Silas said smoothly, arms spreading as if welcoming her. "Kneel, surrender your will," and she walks away. "Refuse, and I tear her apart before your eyes." Maya's jaw clenched. "I don't kneel. I don't surrender. I choose." The bond between her and Alara flared, alive with memory. The cabin, the kiss in the snow, the vow of hunger and restraint. For a moment, the chains flickered as if uncertain, Alara's pulse echoing through Maya like a second heartbeat. Silas's eyes narrowed. "Then you've chosen death." He moved in a blur, shadows lashing out to bind Maya's wrists and throat. She stepped into them, letting her blood soak into the dark bindings, whispering not his name for her, but her own truth. "Mine, not yours." The chains stuttered, struggling against defiance they hadn't been built to endure. The fight cracked the bridge like thunder. Silas struck with centuries of cruelty. Maya answered with raw, untamed will. He showed her illusions, Alara burning villages, Alara drenched in blood, and she ripped through them by speaking what was true now, not then. "I choose her." Each word broke another tether. Each refusal weakened his grip. Alara, still bound, poured strength back through the bond, giving Maya her steadiness, her restraint, her endless will to survive. For the first time, they moved as one. Maya lunged, caught Silas's wrist, and Alara's hands closed over hers. Together they bit into the current of his power, not to steal it but to turn it back. His chains unraveled, his dominion collapsed, and his own bindings folded inward until they caged him. Light, cold and merciless, poured from his eyes as his reign dissolved into nothing. He screamed, then vanished like smoke dragged through a crack in the world. The bridge steadied. The night exhaled. Alara fell into Maya's arms, her chains gone, her eyes wet with relief. You saved me, she whispered. We saved us, Maya corrected, pressing her forehead to hers. I thought choosing you would cost me myself. Instead, it gave me back someone I want to be. Alara trembled, but she smiled, soft and real. Then let me choose too. I choose you. Their kiss burned the dusk into dawn. Later, they returned to the cabin, not as fugitives, but as builders of something new. The bond no longer yanked, it asked. Maya remained half human, half changed, and Alara taught her to balance hunger with choice. They freed the others from Silas's marks, gave them names instead of scars, and made the mountain a place for the broken to begin again. Some nights the past rose with its teeth, but together they faced it. Love was not a chain, they had learned. It was a vow renewed each day. And every morning when sunlight cracked across the porch, Maya would whisper it into Alara's skin. I choose you. Thank you so much for being here and for believing in this channel. If you feel in your heart, you can donate with super thanks so I can focus more and more on this project. Your support helps me keep creating these love stories and bringing them to life for you. See you in the next video.